The UN peacekeeping units were rotating assignments, and the final deadline was closing in fast. That was when I saw my name, Christian, assigned to the Saudi peacekeeping front. For a split second, my vision went blank. My direct commanding officer was Diana, my wife, the woman I had secretly been married to for 5 years. Cold rushed through my limbs as I nearly staggered into her office. "Relax," she said casually, not even looking up. "Joel was just joking. It's nothing serious. You can submit a change request later." Joel, her adjutant, raised an eyebrow, a faint smirk playing at the corner of his mouth, clearly enjoying the moment. I didn't argue, I didn't shout, I simply looked at them once, then turned and walked out. If being sent into a war zone could be dismissed as a joke, then there was nothing left worth holding on to. I folded my ballistic vest and uniform neatly, hung my Special Forces dog tag where it belonged, and prepared to head to the front. That was when Diana finally lost control. "I told you to change it. You could die," I answered without turning back. "That's none of your concern." Chapter 1. The moment I saw the name Christian glaring from the document, my body froze. My mouth hung half open, but no sound came out. The room erupted. "You've got to be kidding me." Only Christian got sent to Saudi. Weren't we supposed to rotate home this year? How could this happen? My teammates looked at me with helpless sympathy, not knowing what to say. Gabriel, who slept on the bunk above mine, slammed his fist against the bed frame, grinding his teeth. "The higher-ups are full of shit. They promised you a promotion when you came back. Now they're screwing you over." I finally came back to my senses, throat dry, unable to speak. Everyone knew how hard I'd worked to secure this reassignment home. What they didn't know was why. Everything I did was so I could finally live openly with Diana. Now the roster felt like a meteor crashing down, shattering every illusion I'd built. "There's still time," Gabriel said quietly, gripping my shoulder. "It hasn't been stamped yet." He lowered his voice. "You're close to Diana, right? Go ask her. Saudi isn't a joke. Shells don't care who you are." I clenched the document and headed to Diana Wu's office. When I opened the door, Joel was standing far too close to her, pretending to explain something on her computer. "What's this reassignment?" I asked. She glanced up with a casual smile. "Scared?" She chuckled lightly. "Joel was just testing you, seeing if he could rattle our fearless Captain Christian. It's not even stamped. Just submit a change request later." My fists tightened until the paper crumpled. "A joke?" The bitterness in my voice made her frown. "If it's not a joke, then what? Are you accusing Joel?" I hurled the document against the wall. If I hadn't noticed, would I have boarded transport and been sent to Saudi without a clue? That's an abuse of authority. Push this far enough and he could face court-martial, she scoffed, ice flashing in her eyes. "Have you gone stupid from too much military service, filing complaints over something this trivial? Stop acting like a child. Why are you always targeting him?" She snapped the laptop shut, shielding Joel behind her. "He's been my adjutant for years. He's family." Her voice hardened. "You turn your own people against him out of jealousy. I don't even recognize you anymore." The room fell silent. I stood there, numb. She had been my superior since my first day in Special Forces, commander, lover, wife. I remembered collapsing during training, waking to her at my bedside, balancing paperwork while adjusting my fore. I remembered charging into enemy fire, hearing her voice over the radio, shaking, "Christian, come back alive, and we'll get married." 5 years. All of it felt like a cruel joke now. Chapter 2. Bang. I lowered my pistol slowly. The score was terrible. When your mind falls apart, your aim follows. As I reloaded, a voice came from behind. "Practicing again." Joel leaned casually against the wall, that familiar smug smile on his face. "I wanted to ask about the UN banquet tonight. Is it okay if I go with Diana?" His tone was fake modest. His eyes weren't. "You know how much foreigners love dancing. Since she doesn't have a partner." I fired another shot. He flinched, legs shaking. I sighed. Once he'd been clumsy enough to lose important documents, Diana had nearly kicked him out. She'd complained endlessly about how useless he was. I was the one who convinced her to give him another chance. Now he'd taken everything. Rumors spread through the unit. Diana never denied them. She only patted my shoulder. "As long as we know who we love, that's enough." Did she really? I turned to Lavonley to run into Diana rushing over. "What are you doing here? Where's Joel?" Before I could speak, Joel darted out. He didn't say anything, just kept shooting. Her face went pale. "Did he hurt you?" She grabbed his hands, trembling. I walked away. Behind me she shouted, irritated. Was that really necessary? Why scare him? Still stuck on that joke. Fine, let them joke. I was done. Chapter 3. That night, I packed. The clock ticked loudly in the dorm. 1 night left. I had no intention of submitting a change request. I searched Saudi Arabia. Every headline was war, death, ruins. A little girl stared blankly from the rubble in one photo. After a long silence, I zipped my suitcase shut. Gabriel burst in there together. Right now I followed him. At the UN banquet, jazz music floated through the hall. Joel's hand rested firmly on Diana's waist. They moved together, surrounded by whispers. Perfect match. She deserves happiness. As the music peaked, she leaned into his arms. Joel leaned closer. Then Diana suddenly froze and looked toward the entrance. She knew, because that was when Gabriel and I walked in. Chapter 4. The door had barely closed when Diana rushed toward me finally. "Where have you been?" She spoke quickly as if nothing irreversible had happened. "I admit I lost my temper earlier, but you can't just walk off duty like this." She lowered her voice, coaxing. "Be sensible. Apologize to Joel. Everything will go back to how it was." I pressed my lips together, my mind still stuck on the scene I had just witnessed. "You know who I am," I said quietly. "I don't bow my head. Not to anyone." Her patience shattered. She grabbed Joel by the arm and dragged him forward. "Fine, then watch." Every eye in the hall turned toward them. Joel's legs trembled. His voice shook, thick with performative remorse. "Diana, I lost control. I couldn't help myself." Before he could finish, she pulled him into her arms, one hand cradling his head. "No one is blaming you," she said gently. "Let's continue." Laughter and applause rippled through the hall as she kissed him deeply, unapologetically. Even senior officers only shook their heads and chuckled. I couldn't breathe. My feet felt nailed to the floor. It took a long time before Gabriel managed to pull me away. I hadn't been to the front in years. There was a lot I needed to prepare. After that night, whatever fragile connection Diana and I still had vanished completely. She spoke to me only once more. "Did you submit the reassignment change?" "It'll be finalized tomorrow." "And if I didn't?" I asked. Her expression shifted slightly, but she still crossed her arms with that familiar arrogance. "You're still being stubborn. You'd really go to Saudi just to spite me, to throw your life away." She softened her tone, confident. "I know you can't bear to leave me or the future we planned. Once we return, apologize to Joel and we'll have our wedding." I walked past her without a word. Empty promises meant nothing to me anymore. After passing through multiple checkpoints, I finally boarded the transport bound for Saudi Arabia. But just before departure, during the pre-deployment assembly, I saw a face I never expected. "Soldiers of Country A," the announcer said, "please welcome UN Commander Wu, who will deliver today's address." Thunderous applause followed. I stared ahead, expression blank. The woman who once called Saudi a death sentence now stood there to motivate us. Military life hadn't diminished Diana's beauty, it had given her a colder, sharper edge. Many young soldiers looked at her with open admiration, and on the eve of war, that fascination burned even brighter. Applause roared, a few whistles even cut through the air. I clapped stiffly as she stepped onto the podium. Joel followed closely behind, always at her side. Whispers spread. "Who's that guy?" "Her adjutant. They look awfully close." My expression didn't change, but my palms clapped harder and harder. After her speech came the open Q&A. A young soldier, face red, took the microphone. "Commander Wu, do you have someone you love?" Good-natured laughter spread. My chest tightened. She hesitated, ears reddening. "Yes," she said, "we're getting married." The soldier swallowed and pushed on. "Is it your adjutant, ma'am?" She faltered, then met Joel's hopeful gaze. Yes, something inside me went utterly still. Of course it was him. It could never have been the man she hid for 5 years. As I climbed back into the transport truck, the scent of sand and gunpowder filled my lungs. It was time to go. After the convoy departed, Diana stood watching until it vanished into the distance. An unease twisted in her chest. "Country A's contribution to peace is impressive," a diplomat said warmly, "even sending elite special forces to the front." Her ears rang. "Special forces," she repeated blankly. "I thought only regular units were deployed." Her voice tangled. "The special forces you mentioned, who are they?" Chapter 5. The Saudi sun scorched everything, heat pressed down like molten iron, carrying the stench of rust and gunpowder. The sand had been torn apart so many times by artillery that its original color no longer existed. Wearing full body armor, every breath felt like swallowing knives. The field hospital was nothing but clustered green tents, where disinfectant and blood mixed into a smell that belonged only to hell. After treating a grazing wound on my shoulder, I leaned against a cot and drank half a canteen of cloudy water. My body ached from non-stop operations, yet my mind had never been clearer. There were no politics here, no games, only survival and duty. When I saw a little girl crouched in the ruins, clutching a torn doll, eyes hollow with despair, something heavier filled the space where Diana's name once was. This place needed weapons. But it needed hope even more. The tent flap burst open, sunlight flooded in, followed by a trace of perfume that didn't belong here. Even disheveled, clothes ruined, fear webbing her eyes. I recognized her instantly. Diana. She looked like a cornered animal. "Christian," she screamed, "are you insane? All this for that stupid little thing?" Her voice cracked. 5 years, 5 damn years, do they mean nothing to you?" The tent went silent. Wounded soldiers stared. I set the canteen down and met her gaze. "A little thing." My voice was steady, sharpened by the battlefield. "That little thing was Joel putting my name on a death roster as a joke. That little thing was you praising him for thoughtful surprises, letters ID secretly left in your desk for years. That little thing was you blaming me when he lost your evaluation file, costing you a promotion." I stepped forward, her face drained of color. "That briefcase you loved, I crossed 3 cities to fix it. You carried the cheap one he bought and called him considerate. Last New Year's, I guarded the cum station for 3 days without sleep. You scolded me for missing a video call while he drank wine with you and complained I was never around. Each word cut deeper. Every time. You chose him. You erased his mistakes. I looked around the tent at blood, dust, broken bodies. Every bullet here is more real than whatever you call love. I met her eyes one last time. I didn't come here to die, and I didn't come to fight you then firmly. The moment you turned my life into the price for Joel's comfort, we were finished. Diana never stepped onto my battlefield again. Chapter 6. Life at the front was measured in explosions. Joel's jealousy and Diana's screams were ground into nothing beneath the roar of war. Escorting convoys through crossfire, pulling civilians from collapsing buildings, holding shattered limbs while surgeons worked. Each mission tore me apart and rebuilt me. And yet, beneath the peacekeeping insignia, my heart had never been steadier. In observer reports my name appeared more and more. Exceptional leadership, extraordinary courage under extreme pressure. Another rank was quietly added to my shoulder. Then, on a storm-soaked night, lightning split the sky, and someone stumbled out of the rain. Joel Mudcake soaked through, his arrogance replaced by desperation and hate. He burst into my command tent. "You satisfied now?" he screamed. "Because of you, Diana's done. She retired, locked herself away praying for you." He leaned over my desk, shaking. "My promotion's frozen. I've been dumped into warehouse logistics." His voice cracked. "You destroyed everything." Outside, thunder rolled beneath distant artillery. I didn't even look up from the map. I placed the stylus down slowly. The tablet's pale light washed over my face, steady, unmoved. Compared to the hysterical man in front of me, the abnormal movement reported by last night's patrol mattered far more. "Joel," I said, my voice cold and dense like rain-soaked steel. "Diana chose her path. You chose yours. Don't play holy with me," he screamed, slamming both hands onto the table and sending the water cup rattling. "She did this because of you. She can't erase you. She kneels at the altar calling your name. You heartless bastard." The radio on my desk exploded to life. A shrill alarm, a violent red flash. Emergency frequency. I grabbed the receiver. Joel's rant cut off mid-syllable. "Falcon here, speak." The voice on the other end was strained, breathless. Eagle's Nest, Sector F7. Enemy mortar units, repositioning southeast. Suspected target, temporary shelter. Repeat, F7 shows hostile movement. Copy. I replied instantly. Activate contingency protocol. Evac team deploy now. Suppression units take position. Sniper teams lock onto F7. Orders snapped out sharp and precise, leaving no space for doubt. The command tent tightened with urgency. A guard already held the flap open, waiting. I pulled on my helmet and tactical vest, then cast one final glance at Joel. He stood frozen, face drained of color. His rage so loud moments ago now looked painfully small. Ridiculous, even, against the backdrop of real blood and real death. "Adjutant Joel," I said as I fastened the helmet strap, my voice cutting through rain and static alike. "There's no confession booth here for you. Only children waiting to be pulled from rubble. If you have grievances, file them properly," I added flatly. "Now, step aside. You're blocking the door." I walked straight into the storm. Cold rain drenched me instantly, but it brought with it a brutal clarity. Behind me, Joel's figure dissolved into the downpour, swallowed by soldiers surging into action. Later I heard he left the camp in a daze and stepped onto the edge of a concealed unexploded ordnance pit, collapsing part of the ground beneath him. Security dragged him away, screaming. The battlefield does not pause for broken hearts. Somewhere in the darkness, refugees' eyes were still waiting for dawn. Chapter 7. Saudi Arabia left its final mark on me through fire and steel. A bullet that tore through the outer side of my left calf. The bone healed. The nerves did not. What remained was a permanent limp and a deep drilling ache that surfaced whenever the rain came. When the war ended and our rotation finally brought us home, medals weighed heavily across my chest. A new insignia rested on my shoulder, higher rank, heavier responsibility. The scar down my leg became its own silent decoration, proof of what blood and desert had carved into me. The office I returned to was immaculate. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a city moving in flawless order. I took my new badge, the emblem of my current post, and placed it deep inside a drawer alongside the medals from Saudi. On top of them lay a single document signed long ago, never submitted. Our divorce papers. A knock broke the silence. "Sir Deputy Director Christian," a young aide said carefully. "There's Ms. Wu here. No appointment, but she insists." Sunlight filtered through the blinds, striping the floor with light and shadow. The door creaked open. Diana stood at the threshold. Her uniform was gone, replaced by plain linen robes. Dark sandalwood prayer beads looped around her wrist. Her face was bare, no makeup, no armor. The fire that once burned in her eyes had faded into something still, almost brittle. Only a faint flicker beneath the surface betrayed the turmoil she could no longer suppress. She looked thinner, frail, like a tree struck too early by frost. "Thank you, Lee, you may go," I said softly, then gestured to the chair. "Please." She sat, fingers unconsciously rolling the beads. Silence stretched. Her eyes lingered on my uneven gait as I moved. Pain flashed briefly across her face. "You've changed," she said hoarsely. "You're more composed now. The front line's refined people," I replied evenly, lifting my thermos. The tea was warm, perfect. No anger, no tension, only distance shaped by years and war. Her gaze drifted to the world map behind me, colored with peacekeeping zones. Then she looked back at me and the composure she'd clung to shattered. "I came to repent," she whispered. Tears spilled freely, tracing clean lines down her cheeks and dripping onto the dark beads. I was blind. I let empty flattery poison my judgment. I forgot everything we endured, from raw recruits to standing shoulder to shoulder. Her voice cracked. "How you took blame for me. How you stayed by my bed 3 nights when I burned with fever in that field hospital." Her hands clenched. Even that time," she sobbed. "We had a child, Christian, 2 months. I didn't know after that border operation. I thought I was just exhausted." Her body shook as years of guilt burst loose. I listened. The memories unfolded like old photographs, ripples on a lake that would never rise again. When her sobs finally quieted, I spoke calmly. "Diana, it's over." She looked up sharply, hope flickering desperately. "These years," I said, eyes drifting to the blue sky beyond the window where a plane cut a silver line. "I learned many things among ruins and explosions." When I looked back at her, there was no hatred left, no love either, only clarity. "If not for that so-called joke on the roster," I continued, "I'd never have escaped the suffocating triangle between you, me, and Joel. It was Saudi, the people clawing for life, that anchored me." I stood. The injured legs slowed me, but every step was firm. "These legs," I said quietly, "carried me across rubble. Saved lives. They're damaged," I added softly, "but worth it." I slid the divorce papers toward her. "Sign it for both of us." She stared at the document. A tear fell, blurring the ink. Then she signed. Without a word, she stood and left. Her robe flickered in the doorway light like a dream losing its final color. Chapter 8. The divorce was finalized, archived, sealed. It ended more than a marriage. It closed a floodgate. The vines of entanglement were severed at the root. A new star appeared on my epaulet. I was transferred to headquarters, coordinating peacekeeping operations worldwide. Outside my window lay calm order, not smoke and sand. But the files on my desk were heavier than any weapon. Casualty lists, coordinates of suffering, photographs of children buried in ruins. Perhaps I had grown stern, but that sternness came from witnessing hell. News of Diana reached me only through Gabriel. She had taken vows in a mountain monastery, chanting sutras beneath temple bells, praying for peace, especially for me. Her faith was hers. It no longer belonged to my life. Joel's name resurfaced later in a tribunal notice. Embezzlement, smuggling, falsified records, cold facts, irrefutable evidence. I attended the hearing only because duty required it. He barely resembled the man he once was. When his eyes met mine, he trembled. I felt nothing, no triumph, no anger, only indifference. When the gavel fell, I rose and left. Outside, autumn sunlight caught drifting leaves. The farce that began with a joke ended beneath the judge's hammer. Back at my desk, a new file waited. Medical teams to Congo. I opened it. My battlefield would always be the places still marked in red where smoke had not yet cleared.